you can will into the world what you want. It's just that you need to be focused enough to just focus on that one thing and keep on going. Of course, focus alone doesn't get you there. You need to actually have a unique insight. Something actually needs to be working for you. But once you find that thing that's working, you need to exploit it as quickly as possible.
Lots. Cali I just sold to MyFitnessPal. Crazy. One. Insane for like consumer apps and everything. I don't know how much they made, but they did very well, I'm assuming. How did they get there? What was their marketing? What was like the biggest aspect of their marketing? And like, how can I do that too?
How much did they sell for? I think it's just, I have my own predictions. I think like 75 to 100. It's kind of like my predictions. Of course, I don't think it's all cash upfront, but like I think that's probably like the valuation itself. So I think that's pretty sick. How do you do that? I think it's just staying focused. Kaliizer was a very, at least on the front end, very simple product. You come in, scan. It just tells you, adds you to tell you the calories, whatever, and that's essentially it. There was already a big company out there, MyFitnessPal, which I think this is what makes it so cool. But MyFitnessPal was kind of complicated. But again, I think MyFitnessPal still do like over 100 million a year, regardless. So there's still a market for people that want that kind of real detail. They want the kind of like to write every single thing down themselves, clearly, because they're making crazy amounts of revenue. But again, even within the same customer segment, there's still people that just want the kind of like quick access, being able to scan things. I think in terms of back to the whole focus thing, is the fact that I think they've done it for like about a year and a half, I believe, or something like that. What people tend to do is that when they have an app that's super successful, they're kind of like, oh, let's build another app that's completely different. And I think I admire that they focused on like Kalei and growing that, making sure the operations behind the scenes are growing and not failing and kind of like putting out any fires that happen. And I think this is just a testament to like, you can will into the world what you want. It's just that you need to be focused enough to just focus on that one thing and keep on going. Of course, focus alone doesn't get you there. You need to actually have a unique insight. Something actually needs to be working for you. But once you find that thing that's working, you need to exploit it as quickly as possible. And I think for them, it was definitely that kind of like UGC programs, being able to scale that.
Was it all UGC though?
Oh, no, definitely not. I think UGC is what gave them the creatives, but then paid ads, and spending a lot on paid ads, still profitably, is then what actually gave them the amount of scale that they have. I think their January numbers are like 5 million they did in January, but I think generally last year they were doing about 3 million a month.
I have always wondered, because like, I mean, we've run ads, we've run successful ones, we've run unsuccessful ones, we've done UGC successfully and unsuccessfully, right? Like it's marketing, right? It's a crapshoot. You kind of throw a bunch of things at the board and see what sticks. I remember seeing Cali Eyes. I wish I had it, but Cali Eyes, you know how you can go on the Meta ad library and you can see how many ads they ran? And it was like a shit ton. Like it was a shit ton. So like how do you determine what makes a good ad, right? Like obviously there's positive ROAS, which is like dead simple, but it gets more complicated than that, right? Because I mean, you've clicked around in Meta ads a lot, and I thank you every day that I don't have to do that. So like what other like levers are they pulling for that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think there's much to pull from like the Meta ads, but like the Meta like product itself. I think Meta just learns the kind of customer that's likely to convert, and then it just compounds over time. So I think maybe you can give a lookalike audience of customers who've already converted, and you want to target them, so you can then create lookalike audience, which is literally you just giving Meta, I think, like 1,000 emails, just say, hey, these are the right customers that we want to target. And then Meta just finds the top 1% of people on Meta and then targets them. So I think there's that. I think it's just more so about the creative, and I think that's where the real magic really happens, is being able to understand what makes people download their app specifically. What visual hooks do they have? What storytelling do they have? What influences can they also work with itself? And then the whole process of like paying out these creators, make sure that it's on time so that the creators can then, it doesn't stop the workflow. So the creators can just keep on churning out more and more and more content. And that gives them a general brand lift, which can actually make conversion much cheaper for them. Because now if I see an ad, it's not a cold ad. I don't know. It's not like, oh, I don't know who these people are. It's like, oh, I've actually seen some of these before. Oh, you know what? Let me try it. right? That little thinking changing in my mind can be the difference between paying $2 for an install and paying a dollar for an install.
I remember when we were doing like all the pre screen stuff, and we reflect on this a lot because I feel like in YC and like just generally we give this advice a lot where it's, use UGC to find the creative that works. That's what we did because UGC is a very quick way to organically find out how your ICP, how your audience is thinking about the problem you're solving, the app that you're trying to sell them, the experience you're trying to give them, right? You can very quickly see what works and what doesn't just based off of the view count. Do the views skyrocket? You don't even have to like go viral, right? But do they skyrocket beyond like 10K? Right? That's probably something that kind of hits, and you can kind of double down on doing that UGC to see if there's like a slight change that you can make to that exact same hook to find something that like really appeals to someone. And I mean, if you follow things like social growth engineers, I think it's the Shortimize guys that run it, if I'm not mistaken. You see them talk about the hooks all the time, and like you will see these pages that are just spamming the exact same hook and pulling in 3 million views every single freaking time that they do it, right? And like those are like some real winners. You're not always gonna get that. So I think like the more scaled back approach where you're not chasing that like million view virality every single time, and it's the same approach that we took and the same we advise on, is see what works generally in relation to everything else that you're putting out there. So what gets 60,000, what gets 120,000 views, 130,000, and then take those creatives, like your top 5%, 10%, whatever, depending on how many you have, throw them into meta ads, do as much of the lever pulling as you can, right? Like target United States if your app's in English or whatever, right? Yeah. Or maybe you're targeting in Portugal or like Brazil because it's cheaper, right? Do all that stuff and then run the ads and just watch the meta machine learning pick what is the best creative out of those. And I think that has worked really well because I remember like early days we ran like big experiments where we basically took, I don't remember how many, 30 videos or something. And like the one that performed the best on TikTok organically was the one that performed the best as a meta ad. And it's just fascinating to actually see that and have that like real time feedback where you're like, yeah, this is actually true. And that is like kind of the beauty of running these ads, right? Where it's like, make it feel like just a normal TikTok video, especially if it's going on TikTok or Instagram Reels or something, right? Like you don't want something that is jarring and takes them out of that flow. You want them to just kind of think that it's just another TikTok, just another Instagram Reel, which is exactly why UGC works so well. But I kind of alluded to this. Meta ads is a pain in the ass to use. It is old. It is complicated. It's funny that we talk to people at YC that used to work on the team and they're like, yeah, and there's no interest in changing it because it works. And it's like, yeah, I get it. But like, at what point do you think it's time to hire an agency?
I would definitely say like the point is when you start. Actually, the issue with UGC is not actually necessarily the content. I think that's the kind of like experimental thing. The issue that's always stays constant is having to manage like basically 16 and 17-year-olds. I mean, this can probably even go up to like 21-year-olds as well. And when if you're trying to manage like 20 of them and you don't have like a creator team to manage this, I think that's when it becomes a pain because let's say you have them all in a deal to like post once a day on these new accounts. Even just that alone, some of them, oh, it's my birthday, or, they didn't tell you beforehand and they go missing for 4 days. And then you kind of have to be like, okay, that means we can't pay for those days. And they start arguing about certain things and we didn't invoice you correctly itself. And then they complain to you about like, oh, I haven't received my money, so I'm not going to do any posts. Just all these kind of like headaches. I guess most of the back office operations, when you can feel that it's getting a bit too much for you, I think that's when I would say like, is to kind of get an agency in. I think it's always good to try out yourself first, just so that you can understand where the issues are for you personally or for your company, and then make sure to highlight that to the agency and let them know exactly what they should be helping you with. My key thing whenever I work with an agency is that if I spend X amount of dollars, I'm not expecting to now, hey, once I start working this agency, I'm gonna make that money back. The whole point of the agency is for them to manage this so I can have my time back, but also number two, so they can find out what kind of viral hooks work well, so that I can then scale down with ads. That's essentially what we do.
And it's one of those things that like you're doing upfront investment in having an agency manage this, like you said, free up the time and everything, right? But like you don't always need to have that agency running forever, right? Like you
Mhm.
can kind of use them for 3 months, have them cycle through content, and you just are kind of acknowledging that, hey, if I'm paying $20,000 for this agency per month,
Mhm.
$60,000 investment, but I know with the creatives I gain in that time, I can make back that 60,000 over the next 6 months or something, right? And all of a sudden you're not having to pay that agency anymore. You got all the good content out of it. And now you can run meta ads and you can kind of pay that back.
Mhm.
Right. So this is where you kind of like take a more of a meta view of your business and you're like looking at the P&L basically for the year. Right. You're not looking at like how much am I spending right this second, right this month, which can also be pretty daunting for some people, especially if you don't have that much money to throw around to do these long-term payback periods, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I'll also say, like, be careful with agencies as well, because there's a lot of agencies that approached us. There's a lot of agencies that have pretended that they've worked with other people. The agency that we worked with, they're called Plutus Media. So we worked with them for pre-screen at the time. I've actually also separately worked with them with another project as well. Again, there's probably other good ones out there as well, but those are the ones that I can personally testify to. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Plutus, I remember, I wasn't in on the calls, but I would usually be sitting like the desk right next to it, right? So I would listen, and they were very clear and professional with a lot of how they're laying out, like, hey, these are the UGC creators that are working. These are the ones that are not working out so well. This is our plan to kind of fix that. And as someone that I can be very hesitant to kind of throw money around, I remember feeling pretty good in that moment that these people are talking and they know what they're saying. You know what I mean? Like they were pretty good. That's definitely a thing. Like Plutus was great at doing that. If you're working with a different agency, like make sure they're like that as well, right? Because like the key is you need someone that's professional but also understands you, your market, your app, and the creators. Like it's a very complicated issue to be able to understand all that stuff. I don't think I'm not capable of doing that. And I don't know how many people are. And there's a couple agencies that have it absolutely nailed. And those are the ones you want to work with. And you have to be very like hire fast, fire fast. You know what I mean? Like you have to be very careful and cognizant of that going into that business relationship with them.